Nigel Farage is at it again, and this time he's ripping Labour's latest immigration stunt to shreds. In a fiery debate on GB News, Farage exposed what he calls a deceptive smokescreen, Labour's supposedly tough new policy that denies citizenship to small boat migrants. Sounds strict, right? Well, hold on, because the truth behind this policy is far more sinister. Labour wants the public to believe they're cracking down on illegal immigration. They've proudly announced that anyone entering the UK illegally will normally be refused citizenship. But here's the catch. This doesn't mean they're actually getting deported. Instead, they're still being granted asylum, meaning they can stay in the UK indefinitely, work, claim benefits, and live as if nothing happened, just without a passport. Farage wasn't having any of it, calling out Labour's blatant deception and warning the British public that this is nothing more than a PR stunt to make it look like they're serious about immigration. And when Labour MP Lloyd Russell Moyle tried to defend the policy, Farage shut him down instantly. Russell Moyle claimed that Labour has sent back more people than the Tories, as if that was some kind of victory. But Farage was quick with the facts. Only 26% of those sent back were actually deported. The rest left voluntarily. The real numbers tell the true story. Since taking office, Labour has seen a 28% increase in small boat crossings. That's right. Despite their so-called tough stance, illegal migration is actually getting worse. The Home Office's revised guidelines might sound like a step forward, but they still allow thousands of migrants to settle in the UK just without an official passport. It's a total betrayal of the British people who were promised tighter border controls. Labour's weakness on this issue isn't just incompetence, it's deliberate. They are playing both sides, pretending to be tough for the cameras while ensuring the migrant flow never really stops. And the moment anyone calls them out, their left-wing allies rush to the scene, kicking and screaming. That's exactly what's happening now. Enver Solomon, chief executive of the Refugee Council, came out immediately to condemn the policy, saying that blocking their ability to become citizens prevents refugees from fully integrating. Another activist, Kolbasia Hauso, called it a dark moment in British history, as if Britain was somehow obligated to grant citizenship to people who break the law to get here. Then there's Labour MP Stella Creasy, who demanded the government reverse the policy, claiming that it can't be right to deny citizenship to those granted refugee status. But where's her concern for British citizens? Where's her outrage over rising crime, overwhelmed services, and skyrocketing costs? It's clear that, in Labour's world, illegal migrants come first and the British public come last. And if you thought Labour's deceit ended there, just wait until you hear about Rachel Reeves. The Chancellor, the woman in charge of Britain's finances, has just been caught red-handed lying about her own career history. For years, Reeves has boasted about her experience at the Bank of England, claiming she spent the best part of a decade as an economist there. But new evidence has blown that claim to pieces. Her LinkedIn profile falsely stated she worked at the Bank of England from September 2000 to December 2006. But the truth? She left in March 2006, nearly a year earlier than she claimed. And it doesn't stop there. Her online CV also falsified her time at Halifax Bank of Scotland, claiming she worked there until December 2009, when in reality she left in May 2010. Labour's response? They blamed it on an admin error. That's right. Apparently the Chancellor of the Exchequer can't even keep track of her own employment history. But it gets worse. Reeves hasn't just used this fake timeline on her LinkedIn, she's repeated this false claim publicly to justify why she should be trusted with Britain's economy. And yet Labour expects the public to simply brush it off. When questioned, Deputy PM Angela Rayner dismissed concerns, saying that Reeves's lies happened before she was Chancellor, as if that somehow makes it okay. But how can the public trust a Chancellor who lies about her own credentials? If she can't even be honest about her own past, how can we trust her to manage the economy? But the Labour scandals don't end there. In yet another shocking twist, it's just been revealed that a Palestinian family has been granted the right to stay in the UK under a scheme meant for Ukrainian refugees. Yes, you heard that right. A policy designed to help Ukrainians fleeing war has now been exploited to bring in Palestinian migrants, and Kemi Badenoch was not having it. In a fiery exchange at PMQs, she torched Keir Starmer, saying, "This is completely wrong. It cannot be allowed to stand." She demanded to know whether the government would appeal the decision, forcing Starmer to admit, "I do not agree with the decision. She is right. It is the wrong decision." But then he tried to pass the blame, saying the decision was actually made under the last government. But Badenoch wasn't done. She hit back hard, saying, "Given this crazy decision and so many others, new legislation is needed to clarify the right to a family life in Article 8. I know, Labour MPs don't understand much of what they're saying, but the Prime Minister literally wrote a book on the European Convention on Human Rights. This is a situation where we need to put our national interest before the ECHR. Boom. Direct hit. Labour's weak virtue-signalling approach to immigration has now led to a complete mockery of the system. A scheme designed for Ukrainians fleeing war is now being used as a loophole for Palestinians, and Labour doesn't even have a plan to stop it. And guess what? The legal loophole still exists. That means more cases like this are coming. More migrants exploiting refugee policies, more Labour incompetence, and more chaos at Britain's borders. So, let's recap. Labour's tough talk on immigration is a sham. Migrants are still being allowed to stay, just without citizenship. Labour cares more about illegal arrivals than British citizens. Rachel Reeves has been caught lying about her own career, and Labour is scrambling to cover it up. And now, a refugee programme meant for Ukrainians is being exploited by Palestinians, and Labour's only response is to pass the blame. This is the reality of Keir Starmer's Britain, a government that deceives, that weakens the country, and that prioritises virtue signalling over actual solutions. And the worst part? We've barely scratched the surface of what's coming next. Make sure to like, share, and comment below. Should Reeves resign over her CV scandal? And will Labour ever be honest about immigration? Let's hear your thoughts. The scandals just keep piling up, and Labour's credibility is sinking faster than ever. If you thought their fake immigration crackdown, Rachel Reeves's CV lies, and the Palestinian refugee loophole were bad, just wait, because things are getting even more explosive. Now let's talk about the bigger picture, because what's happening isn't just about one bad policy, one dishonest politician, or one legal loophole. This is systematic deception from a party that knows exactly what they're doing. Labour is pretending to be tough on immigration, while secretly keeping the floodgates wide open. They're acting outraged about legal loopholes while doing nothing to fix them, and their top officials, caught lying about their own credentials and then brushing it off like it's nothing. And yet, they still expect the British public to trust them. This isn't just incompetence, it's a deliberate betrayal of the people who voted for them. And here's something the mainstream media won't tell you. Labour isn't actually trying to fix Britain's border crisis, they're ensuring it gets worse. The rise in small boat crossings isn't an accident, it's a direct result of Labour's soft policies and deliberate inaction. They've weakened immigration enforcement, failed to close loopholes, and silenced anyone who dares speak the truth. And now, the crisis is spiralling out of control. According to the latest figures, small boat arrivals have surged by 28% in Labour's first 7 months in office, and that number is only going up. Yet, instead of fixing the problem, they're giving illegal migrants a free pass to stay in the UK just without a passport. And let's not forget, they've also made it harder to deport them. Under Labour's watch, deportation efforts have been gutted. The percentage of forced removals has dropped to just 26%, meaning 3/4 of illegal arrivals are still here, living off British taxpayers. And then there's the border control sham. Labour's fake crackdown on illegal working, raiding a few businesses, making a show for the cameras, isn't stopping the real problem. The truth is, most illegal migrants don't even need to work off the books anymore because they're being granted asylum instead. That's why, behind the scenes, Labour MPs are actually lobbying to make it easier for illegal migrants to get jobs. While they publicly talk about enforcement, they're privately pushing policies that let more illegal arrivals stay and work legally. And when someone calls them out, they shut down the debate, label critics far right, and pretend everything is under control. But let's talk about another ticking time bomb, the Palestinian refugee scandal. Right now, Britain's refugee system is being manipulated, and Labour is standing by, letting it happen. We now know that a Palestinian family of 6 was allowed to stay in Britain under a loophole in the Ukrainian refugee scheme. Their home was destroyed in an airstrike, they fled to a refugee camp, and then they somehow used a programme meant for Ukrainians to gain entry into the UK. And guess what? This is just the beginning. Legal experts are warning that this case has set a dangerous precedent. Now, more non-Ukrainians will attempt to use the same loophole to gain entry, and the courts, backed by weak Labour policies, could let them stay. And when Badenoch torched Starmer over this legal disaster, Labour had no answer. Instead, they dodged responsibility and tried to shift the blame. But here's the truth. Labour's border failures are a direct threat to Britain's national security. The more they weaken the system, the more Britain becomes a magnet for illegal migration, loophole exploitation, and mass asylum fraud. And who suffers the most? It's ordinary British citizens, the ones who pay their taxes, who follow the rules, who see their communities change overnight without having a say in it. And Labour, they don't care. They'll lie about the numbers, pretend they're taking action, and continue pushing policies that put migrants first and British citizens last. And here's something to think about. If they're already this bad just months into their term, imagine what things will look like in a few years. More boats, more loopholes, more lies, more Labour failures. And here's the final question. At what point will the British people say, enough? Make sure to like, share, and comment. Is Labour lying about immigration?